It's a beautiful Sunday here in Southern California. Um, hey, Brianda. There's Tori. Here we go. All right, Tor, hopefully that's working right there. Get you on. Hi, guys. Yay, it worked. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You got set up okay?
Yes.
It's a pretty cool platform. It works pretty easily once you get it going. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've never done live before, so this is awesome.
Yeah, I like it a lot. How's it going up there? Lockdown.
It's good. We are just same old. It's the nightly like frisbee golf and ping pong and just like so many competitions here.
Yeah.
But
No,
my dad is loving it. He's just like
I'm
so
sure.
happy. Yeah.
I'm sure he is. The girls are constantly like, well, can we go to Napa? Because lockdown in Napa would be great, you know? And
It's definitely like a bonus of living here is the fact that we can really go outside and not have interaction with anyone. So it's pretty great.
yeah, absolutely. Well, just being in your backyard. I mean, they have it set in their heads that they could just camp out. We could camp out on the sand court and just be on your property
Oh my
during the
gosh,
entire
bring
quarantine.
it up. We would love it. I miss Salmon like so much.
I know. I've been thinking about it. Well, it's great to see you. It's great to hear your voice.
Oh,
And thanks for agreeing to come on. For those of you just joining us, I've known Tori since she was a toddler, which makes me feel old, but but it's pretty cool. I played college volleyball at Sonoma State for Tori's mom. So Adley and Tori were little girls running around when I was playing ball, and I got to babysit them and go to preschool outings
yeah.
and watch them grow up. For those of you who are just joining us, but do you remember that, Tori? Do you remember that at all?
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember being babysat by Allie, and I remember when you first had your girls. I remember when you first had Sam and you brought her over to our old house, and it was
Yeah,
oh my gosh, like new baby, and I've
yeah.
been like so crazy how fast everything's gone. I know.
Oh,
It doesn't
definitely.
make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember you guys very vividly. One of my favorite memories when you were toddlers is your mom had a meeting that was running overtime, and I was like, I'll take him, and I took you back to my apartment where we had a pool. And I don't know if you remember this. And you didn't have bathing suits, so I decided to put one of my bathing suits on you.
I remember, and you tied it all up. We were like
Yeah.
tied, and you're like bathing suit.
Well, one of you wore my bottoms, so my bikini bottoms were a one piece on you. It was the funniest thing. But that's one of my favorite little kid memories. And then obviously just watching you grow up has been such a joy because, you know, I'm very connected to your mom and she's such a big influence in my life. So
Yeah.
watching you grow up has been really fun for me.
Well, it's been a blessing to have you there. Let me
Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's dive right into that. I'm really curious, having the parents that you have, I personally believe that having certain relationships with our parents helps build confidence in us, especially as competitive athletes and strong women. And I'm just curious what you think about that, how your relationship with your parents really truly affected you as an athlete.
Yeah, so I think that my parents, obviously, my dad played basketball, professional basketball, my mom played professional volleyball, and they are both just like such confident, competitive, and like well-spoken people. And so they just made it very apparent to Adley and I when we were really young that we were going to stand out either way because we were tall, whether we were good at what we did or not, and that we were going to have to hold ourselves to a higher standard because whether we were good or not, we stuck out with our height and our blonde hair, and people are going to be looking at us, and you have to be representing yourself in a way that is acceptable in the public, but also they were very adamant about us having opinions and making sure that we were just doing and saying the right things, but always staying true to who we were and not shying from that. And so I think that my parents, the way that they raised us into that has really led us to be just natural leaders in what we do. And I'm like forever grateful for it. And I think there's a misconception that having like ex-professional athletes as parents, like they push so hard and like we were exposed to every single sport from a young age. We were never
Yeah.
into a sport. It was really just like, I think it's almost the opposite. Like, because they already had their glory days, they didn't
Yeah.
feel the need to push us into anything that we didn't want to do. And so they were like, hey, if you want to do this and you want us to support you, we absolutely will be there, and we'll be there every step of the way. But if you want to be in musical theater, which I wanted to do for so
Yeah.
long when I was little, they were like, if you want to do that, or if you want to, like, you know, pursue dirt bike riding, like, it didn't matter. Like, they just wanted to be there and support us. And so it was really just having Adley and like having a sister so close in age that was what I think created the competitive atmosphere even more for us, was that like anything she did, I wanted to do better, and anything I did, she wanted to do better. And that was kind of like where my parents were like, okay, like, this is actually a great thing. Like, they make each other better in this sense, and we're going to keep them on the same team, and just let them work out their sisterhood through that. And so that was really cool. And yeah, I definitely give kudos to my parents for the way that they raised us, because I think that it's elevated our just maturity in the world of sports.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I copy you guys a lot, you know. As you know, I have two little girls. They're 8 and 11 now, Sam and Alex, and we do the same thing. And, you know, I was on professional volleyball tours after college throughout Europe, and my husband, Chris, played professional basketball in Europe. And we feel the same way when we're watching youth sports, is we feel that the parents that have a higher level of experience, we just sit back and cheer and laugh and enjoy it, whether they're golfing or playing volleyball or basketball or in their musicals. And we feel that parents that don't have the same experience, they kind of go crazy.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, these kids like can't even tie their shoes yet. So like, why are we freaking out?
Yeah, exactly.
And I do think that really affects them.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's obviously not all parents, but I think that there's a tendency to where if a parent didn't make it in their own career, or they didn't accomplish the things that they wanted to do, push that into their kid. And that can create a lot of pressure and a lot of like self-doubt. And so speaking about confidence, it's like we were just blessed in the fact that our parents had confidence in us no matter what we did, and they were happy with our choices. And so I think that I never felt like pressure to play Division I volleyball. I just like knew that it was what I wanted to do, because I thought it was an awesome culture and thing to do. And so like, it was never pushed upon us, or like, I don't know, it was just a really great environment for us, for sure.
Yeah. So. I agree. Speaking of your family, again, those of you that don't know, Torrey has a sister, an older sister, Adley, who also is an incredible volleyball player in her own right. Not only Adley, though, you have an entire family of not just athletes, but high-level volleyball athletes. Can you talk to us about what that's like? Is there any pressure to perform because your family's so good, or does that actually help the competitive drive?
Yeah, I think that for me, it's like, I was kind of an underdog in our family growing up. We had cousins who were insane athletes. We had aunts and uncles who were ex-professional athletes. And to this day, I mean, I have a cousin playing for the men's national team, and then a girl cousin playing on the AVP, and Adley, who was directly involved in everything I did as a kid, was, you know, 4-time player of the year for our conference. And like, she was just like so incredibly decorated player. And so for me, it was like, I didn't come into my body or understanding of volleyball or like strength or anything really until I was older. So like, I was able to mature and grow into my body that is a lot bigger than a lot of the people in our family. And so basically, I think that like being the underdog is what really made me the competitive, like gnarly athlete that I have been able to become. And so like, I think that our childhood of just playing like dink it in the backyard and like constantly having competitions, our Christmas Day is literally, it's like the Olympics. Like, we have so many different, I'm not kidding, we have so many different things set up, and it's all competition based, and it's like families versus families. And that was like, for some people maybe not their thing, like they would rather just hang out and talk, but for me that was like heaven. Like I was like looking forward to Christmas so much because I was like, oh my gosh, like I get to beat my cousins, or like at least try to, and I never really did. But that was kind of like the atmosphere that we grew up in, which is super unique. And I think that it was an easy transition for us to then, I don't feel a lot of pressure in like volleyball's intense situations, or like I'm the person that's like, oh, I want to have the ball. Like I play volleyball for the 23 all, just absolute, or the 15 all in the third, or the third, fifth set, depending on what level you're playing at. But like I lived for that. I was like, I want the ball in my hands at that time. That is why I play the sport. And I think that is also what it kind of hindered my ability to relate to some of my teammates, because I was blessed enough to live or grow up in an environment where that was so natural for me. And Adley as well. She's just like, all right, I'm going to just step up to the plate. Like, this is why we play. This is so fun.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't have that experience. And so it's very intimidating to be in that position. And that would really frustrate me. I'm like, this is why we're here. Like, I didn't show up to play a team that we're just going to sweep. Like, I showed up to play a team that's going to challenge me, and then I want to prove that I'm wrong. And so that's kind of like the really gnarly mindset that we were exposed to so young. And I mean, some of our family took to it and some of them didn't. Like, it's just like, whether it's your thing or not, it's a gene, I think, that we just all grew up with. And so again, I just feel really blessed to have that. And I don't think that it's taken away from the fact that I was able to mature and realize, like, okay, volleyball isn't the world. Like, it's not everything in my life. And for a long time growing up, I think that when you grow up in an environment like that, it was because that's what brought me joy, was winning and being in competitive environments. And so, especially with like my injuries and everything I've gone through now, it's like, okay, I understand that there's more to life than volleyball, but at the same time, I still want to be that person that is in the hard situations and achieving them. Like, that brings me a deeper kind of joy. That's why I just want to keep playing. It's just a challenge that's never ending. And it's so
absolutely. We have a question here. What do you feel that your parents did in particular, or what do they do in your household that helped raise you to be opinionated and well-spoken and to be a leader?
So my mom has this saying that she has said to me since I was like a little kid. And it's basically, if you stand, now I'm forgetting the saying. It's basically stand for something or stand for nothing. So if you don't voice your opinion, and because everybody has them, obviously. And my parents have always challenged us and provoked us to like, well, what do you feel about this? Like, why, what is your idea on this like adult topic? What do you think? And it's like, it's a challenge for a young kid's mind, because we obviously don't understand all of the aspects of a situation that they're going through, or like whatever it is. They exposed us to these high level and mature situations that happen in life, and they ask us our opinion on it. And so it really challenges like a young mind to look at things from a different perspective, in more of an adult lens, and ask yourself, like, okay, what do I stand for? Like, what are my morals? What is okay with me, and what is not okay with me? And how do I create my opinions in a way that's not judgment based, and that people can understand, like, this is just where I'm coming from and this is how I operate, but I also don't want to be judgmental to how other people do things. And so my mom was just like, she would always challenge us. You either stand for something or you stand for nothing. If there's a debate going on, you put your voice in the realm of the debate and you voice your opinion. Otherwise, people can interpret what you are not doing easier than they can when you're doing it. And so whether you just stand back and nod your head in a situation, like an easy situation that everyone goes through growing up is, for example, is like when a friend is talking bad about another friend. And it's like, are you the friend that's sitting there and nodding your head, even if you don't agree, just to not start a conflict? Or are you going to be the friend that's like, hey, that's my friend, and I don't appreciate you talking about her in that way? And that was something that was hard, but for me, it was a little bit more natural than my sister, because I'm just more opinionated in general. But that's definitely some of the things that, like, I've lost friends over it. I've gained friends.
Absolutely.
People like that about me. Some people don't, but it's definitely one of my core values is just knowing what you stand for and don't settle for anything less, because it's just going to lift the people around you. And if they don't appreciate it in the moment, they'll look back on it later and they'll be like, wow, maybe I should reflect on that situation. Maybe I shouldn't have been saying that thing about the person that just walked out of the room, or like things like that. And we're all guilty of it. I think that it's just having a conscious mind of being aware when that situation arises and knowing how to have the communication skills and the respect and the confidence to be like, hey, no, this is how I feel about it. And we can agree to disagree, but that person's always been really great to me. Yep. Like that's all it takes. And so, I mean, that's just one specific example, but that's kind of how my parents really did an awesome job in just letting us know that, like, look, you are a person and you have a voice and you need to use it, because you're going to be more gratified throughout your life when you do. So,
No, I agree with you. We do that same thing with Sam and Alex, where I'm sure people criticize me for the adult topics that I cover with them, but for the same reason and the same way that your mom and dad raised you, if we don't teach them now, then you're released into a place like college where you're doing this on your own and you don't have that parental guidance. And now it's like releasing that bird from the nest. We don't know if you're going to fly or not, because if we haven't had those complicated conversations with you and we haven't prepped you for those difficult conflict and conversations in life, how do you know how you're going to perform? And so often, especially now, I feel that it's a challenge for people to speak up when they think that something is wrong or unjust, because it's just not what our society does anymore. We tend to block and stick with the group. And you're definitely somebody who is not like that. You'll go against the grain, and you have confidence when you do that. And I think that a lot of people look up to you because of that. And you've probably also had a lot of heartache because of that, because it's really tough to be that person.
For sure. It goes both ways. I think that there's more good than bad, but I've also done more damage than good sometimes. And I have points in my life where I look back and I reflect and I'm like, my opinion was too strong in that situation. And I didn't know all of the facets of what was going on. And so that's another thing, is like self-reflection. And like, we're taught that too. It's like, if you are wrong and you did say something, then state your opinion again and be like, I was wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that either. And so I think that just for me, like a way that I've been able to do that is to be able to just share my story in a really transparent and honest way. And that, and that's been able to connect me to people and connect me to the younger generation and people who have gone through similar things that I have, or just are happy to hear the advice or hear the story, because I think that you can feel really lonely in those situations. Like you said, when you go against the grain and you are really opinionated, and there are a lot of different things out there that people say about you that may or may not be true. And so for me, it's like, I can be that voice for other young girls. And that's like a huge part of what I do. And what I believe in is like challenging the younger generation and women in sport to not back down and to keep on voicing your opinion, and to elevate the level of what we can tolerate within like a team environment. Like, I think that teams can only grow if there's confrontation. I think teams can only grow if there's challenge. And there was a big part in my life and my career where I was like, well, I don't care if you like me or not, this is what I do. And it's like, that's just how it's going to be. And we're going to win volleyball games and blah, blah, blah. And I was just super gnarly in that sense. And like I said, I think my concussion has been able to show me the opposite side of what other people may have been going through when I was that gnarly person, and different things that can affect your life when you're not so like volleyball tunnel-eyed, tunnel visioned or whatever. So yeah, it's been a really great experience for me. It's definitely something that Adley just commented, self-growth queen. I think that there's like a misconception that because I'm so opinionated, I don't self-reflect. And that's not true, because I take what I say and then I think about it for days on end. And I'm like,
it's the opposite.
I wonder how people are
reflect more.
Exactly, because I want people to hear it from a genuine place. I don't want it to be viewed or skewed as judgmental or like I'm right and you're wrong. It's just how I was raised, and it's how I go about my life doing things. Is I'm just going to be honest and I'm going to be transparent. And my mom always tells me, Torrey, you're honest to a fault. I know we told you to be honest, but like you can't just go throwing your opinion out at every single thing when you don't know the full story. And I'm like, you're right. Like, and so I do a lot of self-reflection in that way too, of just trying to, okay, I was wrong here. How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And then move forward.
No, I think those are really good lessons to learn. And something you said earlier, with your family and with everybody being competitive and being raised in that atmosphere, you go into a team dynamic, especially in college, is very competitive, and you just naturally expect that everybody else is that competitive.
Yeah.
In my experience as a coach, you know, the top athletes typically have that, like the best of the best, right? But not everybody can be the MVP on every single team, and not everybody can be the best player in the conference. So what you start to see is what happens to everybody else? What happens to your role players? And I think that you touched on a really good topic there, where how do you make it work with teammates who are not as competitive as you? We all have the same goal. We all want to win. But if they don't have that same hardcore, gnarly competitive drive, what have you learned on how to alter your communication with them to make it work?
Gosh, that's such a good question. I'm still figuring it out, to be completely honest. It's very different now that I'm pursuing beach volleyball instead of indoor, but I think a lot of what I preach and what I talk about comes from indoor volleyball, because in beach, it's like, it's just you and a partner, and my demeanor is completely different. But with indoor volleyball, I think that you're completely right. I showed up at college completely unprepared and just blindsided, being from the tiny town of Napa, like on a small rural area with, I mean, I played at a club with like 5 teams total at it. There was just, I was so naive to what the actual sport and the maturity that other people have in other facets other than volleyball. Like, they're mature in their social life, and they have like all these things going for them, and they have other priorities. And so I showed up at college so unprepared for that. Like, my thing was like, I'm just here to play volleyball. Like, that's all I know. That's all I care about. That's all I want to do. I just want to win a national championship, and I want to do it on indoor, and I want to do it on beach. And like, I was just so motivated. And it was just like this internal thing. And so it was really hard for me to be in a place where it's like, everybody does want to win. And I know that in my heart, and I look back on it and I'm like, oh, I completely understand. Like, in all of my years of indoor volleyball, all of my frustrations came from feeling like I was working harder, or I was doing more, or I cared more, or we lost and people were laughing. And I'd be like, how can you be laughing? Like, I wouldn't talk to my parents for 5-hour car rides home because I'm so angry at losing. And so it's weird, because I think that this hindsight has come after my injury, and I haven't really been able to be a part of an indoor team now, looking back and having the knowledge that I do now of just all these other facets of life. Like, there's struggling in confidence, or there's, you know, mental health, and there's like all of these different things that I had never really experienced. And I was lucky enough to just like, volleyball was just my second nature, and I just kept flowing with it. And when it got taken away, it was like I was able to look back on all of my years, even to like when I was 12 years old and I was calling out the 14-year-olds on my U14 team. I wasn't even playing. I was like the libero. I was like so bad. But I had the confidence to be like, you're not trying hard enough. Like, why aren't you diving for that ball? Blah, blah, blah. If I were out there, I'd be diving for it. And my mom was back coaching me, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? Like, why were you like that? Like, and that stuck with me all the way through college. And so I honestly don't have the answer for it, other than the fact that when I was at Cal Poly and I was sidelined for the entire indoor season, I was obviously preoccupied with a lot of different things. I was preoccupied with physical therapy and my chiropractic and my mental health, my neuropsychology, all of these different things that were kind of keeping me out of the gym a little bit. But when I was in the gym, and when I was in the locker room, and when I was with my teammates, I was lucky enough to have established a relationship with them to where it was mutual respect. And they might not have liked me as a person. I think all of them do now, after I've expressed to them like, wow, I have like I just had this epiphany after my head injury that like, I want to be friends with you guys. I don't want to be feared by you. I don't want to be the bad guy anymore. I still want to win, but I think that there's different ways to go about winning. And when I finally was opened up to that, I think it was an incredible moment and an incredible feeling to have, or just to know that I could put my confidence into the team, and I could show up at practice every day and still push them, and then have the gift of being able to like pull them aside and be like, I think that you can do more. And this is me being like, I genuinely think that you could be the next thing. And I want you to challenge yourself to do that. And like, just changing my verbiage of going with that. And I got so much more out of the team when I wasn't even on the court than before, when I was like, well, why are you working harder? And like, just stuff like that, you know, like it was just such a perspective shift. And it worries me because I know that, I guess a little part of it worries me because I feel like I'm getting soft. I'm like, I'm such a softie now. Like I let people off the hook so easily because I used to be the one that was like, if we're not doing things right in practice, I was going to stop the whole thing, catch the ball and freak out. And now I'm like, well, maybe she had a bad night of sleep. And so you have to find like a middle ground, you know, like
exactly.
There has to be accountability, but there also has to be like, okay, I have this newfound understanding and I need to use it to my advantage. So that's kind of how I've dealt with things. I haven't been put in a team. I mean, obviously this beach season would have been a great test to it, but it got cut short. And so I really haven't been in a position to where I can use my newfound like insights into helping a team environment. And so I'm excited to be able to have that opportunity. Obviously it's different because I'm going to Florida State, and I don't have the trust, and I don't really know the girls, and like I'm super excited, but I'm definitely not going to be like how at Cal Poly I was the, you know, almost not really the captain of the team, but I had a voice because I was there for 3 years, if that makes sense. So it's different when you go into a new environment. So, but I'm excited to take the skills that I've learned and be able to have that in a new team environment, and just absolutely standing on everything. So let's catch people up. So for those of you who don't know, Torrey was sidelined in November of 2018. She sustained a major concussion, and the issue wasn't just that concussion. The issue was that you had multiple concussions in your life, correct? Yeah, it was my fifth diagnosed
concussion. And of course, as kids, you know, a lot of us probably have concussions that go misdiagnosed. So having 5, that's pretty heavy. And with our new research on what happens with concussion, we cannot take that lightly. So again, for those of you who don't know, and you can Google this and read all about it and get more details, Torrey sustained a concussion leading into the playoffs in November of 2018, and then was sidelined for an entire year. Now, Torrey, with my research on concussion and with my experience as a coach, I do not take them lightly. I have had players that have been pissed at me for keeping them on the sidelines a little bit longer. Whereas in my younger days as a player, it would be like, I'm good, get me back out there. I'm good, get me back out there. And it's very difficult for people who have concussion and people who experience teammates with concussions or players with concussions, because it's not an injury you can see. So it's difficult to understand, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So without diving into the entire story, I just want to know a couple of little tidbits of that challenge for you, being out an entire year trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah. So obviously that was like the hardest year of my whole life. Not having, like I said, if you were here earlier in the interview, volleyball for me up until that last concussion point had been everything in my life. Like there was absolutely nothing that was more important to me than my sport. And so when your health is on the line and you realize that if you don't take the time to figure out what's going on with your head, there's a possibility that the sport could be taken away from you forever. That's a huge, and with any athlete and any injury, it's it's a shock to your identity. You start to wonder, okay, but who am I and what do I really want? And if I can't do volleyball, I don't know who I'm going to be or what I'm going to do. And so that was like, it's just a really scary time. There's no better way to describe it than being absolutely terrified. You, especially with a brain injury, because it's like, okay, I've needed knee surgery for almost my entire college career. Never gonna happen, not until I can't walk, because that's just who I am, and I just keep playing. I was the person who was like, if you're sitting out with an injury, you're my therapist, because I think that you should be able to play through it. And that was the end of my story for a very long time, being a leader on my team. And then I sustained a concussion where I was having these crazy migraines, and I was vomiting in class, and I was having blurry vision, like symptoms that you absolutely can't deny or ignore. It's not like, oh, I kind of have a headache and it might be because I'm not drinking water. It's like a crazy shift in your lifestyle where you're like, I can't lie about this, because if I get hit in the head again, it's not only my volleyball career on the line, it's my life. Like, I want to be able to remember my kids' names. And like those things are really scary when you're a 20-year-old and you start to think about, I mean, I hadn't even thought about kids until I got my concussion, and I started realizing, like, I do have other things that I want to do in life other than volleyball, and I need a brain to do that, a functioning, working brain. And so, it was terrifying. It was really hard. It was a lot of leaning on my family and a lot of leaning on my closest friends for support, and finding out if I really wanted to go through with all of the rehab it was going to take in order to get me back on the court. And it's frustrating because, I mean, I went through all that rehab and I'm still going through it. And when I step on the court, I'm not the same talent that I once was. I don't have the same touch on the ball. I don't have the same reaction time. I don't have the same understanding of the game. And so I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't have faith that eventually it would come back. But it is frustrating to feel like you went through all of this stuff and you're supposed to be stronger because of it, but you still feel inferior to the person that you once were. And that's the problem, is that there's so much comparison in your head on like who Torrey was before as an athlete, and then who I am now. And wanting so badly to go back to that 19, 20-year-old me where I was at the peak of my game.
Right.
But without disencouraging myself right now, I guess. Like, it's very discouraging to be like, wow, I'm supposed to be at like the peak of my athletic ability right now, and I feel like I was better when I was 17. And so there's just this weird comparison that goes on. And obviously the public does the comparisons as well, which I'm really good at just not reacting to, because I've heard it all. But I think that that's probably the hardest part. It's terrifying because you can't do things the same way that you once did. And there's nothing physically wrong with your body. It's your brain. It's the chemical makeup of what you once knew not clicking. And so I'm just really grateful for the support team that I've had and my family, and the faith that I recently came into. Like, once I found the right treatment for me, I started, my eyes started lighting up, and I was like, okay, this is like weight being lifted off my chest each and every day, because I'm starting to have less symptoms, and I'm starting to feel like maybe, just maybe, I could do the things that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid. Like, college was never the goal for me. It was the Olympics. It was going to the Olympics for indoor and beach volleyball, not just not just beach volleyball. And so I obviously have to compromise with deciding to go fully beach instead of going overseas and playing indoor and doing the things that I thought I once would do. And that compromise is hard, but I think that it might be a silver lining. I think that it might be my shot at getting good enough in beach volleyball in my younger years to be successful at it when I'm older. And so I try to find the silver lining, but anyone who knows me knows I'm not the most positive person with like self-talk and all the other things. I just hold such a high standard that I can get really down on myself when I'm not performing. And so, it's something that I have to tell myself too, that I'm not the only one that is dealing with. Like, there's people out there who haven't gotten hit in the head who deal with anxiety and depression. And there's people out there who haven't gotten hit in the head and they have genetic migraines. And like, they've been plagued with that just their whole lives, and or worse, you know, like physical disabilities that people. And so I really try to see the silver lining of like, I've been able to have this incredible career with so many incredible people around me, and I'm not going to let the fact that I have had a setback determine what I can and can't do. And so yeah, that's kind of my thought process on my whole head injury.
Well, I think it's interesting because you said some things that I think all of us can relate to just with this whole quarantine, right?
Yeah.
So I think that having so much taken away helps you appreciate what's truly important and valuable in life, right?
Yes.
So you said it yourself, having it taken away, having to go through those challenges, especially with something as traumatic as a brain injury, helped you really refocus on life. And you went back to some of those values that you were taught and that you were raised on of like, wait a second, what is truly important in life? And I know that I can relate to you where for so long, I think that volleyball is my entire identity. And, you know, when you lose an opportunity as a coach or as a player or from an injury or whatever it is, you tend to hit that downhill slide of depression because you think that that's what defined you and you think that's who you are. And you think about all the dreams and goals that are lost. And, you know, I know Chris went through that. My husband went through that. He played 3 years overseas, professional basketball, and he had dreams of the NBA. And then an injury ended his entire career. And it's challenging because you set these goals for yourself. And then especially as a high level athlete, you feel that if you don't meet those goals, you're a failure and that's it. And I know for me, I've really had to embrace this idea that if you didn't reach your original goal, change the goal. Just change the goal. Don't be depressed about what you didn't meet. Just adapt, right? And that's human nature. And that's what we're all going through right now is we have to adapt. Right? It's survival of the fittest. Adapt or that's it. And so now you were able to come back and start playing this beach season. You were able to come back at the very end of the indoor season. What was it like? Did you have any anxiety getting back on the court? Were you nervous? What was that like for you, especially being a confident athlete that probably doesn't usually have nerves getting out there? What was that like?
I have said it before and I'll say it again that I, growing up and throughout the collegiate career prior to my injury, was just this, like, I was blessed with like just this form of confidence that I swear I never had any butterflies. I didn't understand when people were like peeing a million times before the game. Like, I just didn't get it. I was like, get my jersey on, put me out there. I want the ball on game point. Like, I don't care who we're playing. Like, it was just, that was just who I was. And it was through all of that, that my standard in the public's eye, as well as my own eye, was just held to the standard. And there was no day that I was going to show up to practice and no game that I was going to show up to where I wasn't going to be on. Like, I was always on. That was just my thing. It was easy for me to get into flow. It was easy for me to create a competitive environment in a super slow paced drill and practice. Like, I loved that. And it was something I was really good at. And post concussion, now there's this standard of who Torrey used to be. And I'm expecting to go out there and do exactly that, except I have heart rate variability that I have to worry about. I have to be doing deep breathing and all of these practices and therapies and speaking with my neuropsychologist before I go on the court, and like things that are so out of routine and things that in my old mind I viewed as weak and fragile and just like, I don't know, and it's really hard to describe to you because I really, at Stanford, going into the game for my very first, I guess, debut after my injury, it was so incredibly nerve-wracking. Like, I just couldn't fathom the fact that like I felt the way that I did. Like, it was such a foreign feeling to me. And I had felt it in practice, but I think in practice, it's more like I'm worried about getting hit in the head. It's not like, oh, I'm worried what my team is thinking about on my performance level. It was more of like, I'm just terrified of getting hit in the head right now. And so when you're on the stage and you're in the NCAA tournament, that shifts to, oh my gosh, all these people are seeing me run out in a jersey for the first time in a year. And they're thinking that they're going to watch Torrey from 17-18 season, and they're not going to be happy with what they see, because I knew that I wasn't at my physical potential. I just wasn't at the level that I once was. And so something I really talked about a bunch with my my neuropsych, was trying to be, I was always an A+, like that was my standard. That was what I did. And our team was doing so incredibly well without me that all I needed to be was a sidekick. Like I just needed to be a supporting player that could, you know, not do incredible, but you can't hit in the negatives, and you need to be able to pass the ball when it's served to you. And you just need to be able to, like, what I tell everybody, or I used to, just be able to recycle the ball and use it to your advantage when you can. And, you know, do what you're asked of, and be like a role player. Which was also really foreign to me, because I'm not used to not being the person talking in the middle of the huddle. I'm not used to, and the team had already created this incredible bond, and new leaders had emerged. And it was so amazing to watch. And I didn't want to step on any toes by coming back in and acting like I knew everything, because I didn't. Like I was that we were running new systems. I was like, I have had 2 weeks of practice with this all new things. I'm so not confident in. And so it was really, I guess that experience was just super heart-wrenching, because it didn't provide closure. Even though I was on the court with my team and I was doing what I said that I wanted to do for so long, it didn't give me closure, because I wasn't ending my collegiate career as Torrey. I felt like I was someone completely different. And I felt like a failure. Like, even though I walked out of that, you know, we backdoor swept Georgia at Stanford, and I was on the court for all 5 games, and I did it, and that should be viewed as a success. I left so upset. And I mean, I had, I don't know, maybe it was like 11 kills, which is, you know, average. But for me, it was like, that's the worst percentage that I've hit in my entire collegiate career of volleyball in a game. And walking away from your career, and for me, indoor volleyball forever, finishing like that was just frustrating on a personal level. Now on a team level, I was like through the moon excited, obviously, like, let's go, let's get Stanford, like we have the talent to do it. It was just frustrating that I couldn't lead, because I didn't have the confidence that I once did. I didn't feel comfortable. I was just in this really weird, I still talk about it. It was like a dream. It was like a dream-like state of being like, this just isn't how I remember things being. And I don't know how much I like volleyball when it's not the way that it once was for me. And so it was after that Stanford game, a very emotional few weeks for me. And like I said, I just was able to lean on family and know that, you know, I only had 2 weeks, and I have to be a little bit more forgiving with myself, and just be happy that that I'm healthy enough to even play, because I have friends in the PCS community who, you know, they'll never play again. And like, that breaks my heart. And I don't plan on doing that. I plan on being smart about it, playing beach volleyball, and doing the best that I can with what I have. So.
Well, I mean, what a gift. It might sound cliche to say it, but what a gift you were given to be able to have this whole different perspective, because your knowledge of the game, your IQ of the game naturally would lead you to be able to teach others in the future, and to coach and to pay it forward to a younger generation. But now to have that other side and that other perspective that so many go through is truly going to change the type of person you are, and the type of athlete you are, and the type of mentor you are. And again, those of you who don't know, you know, Torrey was playing beach volleyball at Cal Poly. season got cut short, so here we go again. Like this, it's just a roller coaster of emotions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You finally get back out there, you're on the sand, it's probably much more comfortable than indoor, and the season starts going, and then COVID.
So crazy. I mean, I was telling my parents, it's a trend in my life to not have closure. And part of it is because of the standards that I hold for myself, and the fact that, like, for example, I graduated high school early. I didn't go and graduate with my class. I didn't do my senior prom. I didn't do anything that a normal senior does because, like I said, I was so dedicated to volleyball. I was like, I'm going to get there early. I'm going to get there in the spring before anybody else in my freshman class, and I'm going to earn a starting spot on UCLA's team by the fall, because I didn't think that double days and then a fall season was going to give me enough time to prove my worth on a team filled with 6 seniors. Like, I just knew, I foresaw that as a young girl, that I was like, no, I'm gonna go early. I'm gonna give up my senior year of high school because I want to train and I want to be the best for my, and so boom, right there, no closure for high school. Didn't have closure for my club team because I played up every year, and so they all left and my whole team was gone, and I was like, I don't have a team to play on. I might as well just graduate high school early. So didn't have closure for club. Went to UCLA and never finished there. That's my own thing, but no closure from UCLA. Now Cal Poly, didn't have closure for my last season with my sister because of my injury, and then I come back and it seems like it's going to be this Cinderella story of like, oh my gosh, my sister came back to play. We have all this new talent. We finally have the pieces that we need in order to like be the underdogs of the West Coast and just like dominate. And boom, COVID. And obviously COVID was like a world thing. Like that was just like that nobody picked on Torrey, and we're just going to make it even worse. But like,
but it doesn't change how it feels. It still feels personal, right?
It still feels so personal, and it still is like, man, I just can't win with this whole closure thing. Like, I just want to have like an ending game where I'm like, okay, and it's done, and I can leave, and like there's a red carpet and like fireworks. Like, that's how in my head I'm like, oh god, once I have that, I'll feel so much better. But that's just, it's not my reality right now. And I think that having those like no closure moments have almost made it that much more motivating, or it just like adds to the vibe of like, I am one day going to finally be on a podium where I feel healthy, I feel fine, I am winning, I am like happy with who I am, I didn't step on anybody's toes to get there. And like, that's what closure is to me. And so I think that it's just taking a longer time to get there. And I'm doing my best at, you know, I'm going back to SLO tomorrow and spending my last month there and doing as much as I can. Like, I had phone calls with my whole team, and I'm doing as much as I can in order to be like, okay, I can close this chapter, because for me, Cal Poly isn't closed. It just doesn't feel real. It's like my time there was so incredible for like these 2 years. And then it was like the hardest year ever. And I expected a fairy tale ending of like, okay, you had this hardship and then it's going to end on this really high note and you're going to be sent off, and, you know, and that didn't happen. And I think that that doesn't happen for a lot of people. And so again, I try to remind myself, it's like, it's not just me. Like, there's only one winner and there's hundreds of losers. And there's so many people who also don't have that closure. And so I just have to keep reminding myself that. But yeah, I mean, obviously it really sucks. And the silver lining is that I luckily have an extra year to play and to hopefully, you know, form new relationships. And cool things. So I'm excited.
I tell my players this, I've told my students this before, and I'll tell you, I've had a lot of hardships in life as well. And I also feel like, oh my God, like just when things are going great and you're like, wow, it's amazing, boom, you get hit. And then boom, you get hit again. And I have to step back and I have to think about what I say to my own players and students. And what I say is this: God, or whoever you believe in, or whatever you believe is out there, I truly believe that the universe gives the strongest people the toughest challenges. And I believe that because the universe wants the strongest soldiers at the end of the day, right? Like we have to continue to produce people that can handle and deal with situations. And there's so many people that can't, you know, and I know that you keep getting dealt like just curveball after curveball after curveball, but you turn around and you respond and you grow from that, you know, and that's really what life is all about. It's about the roller coaster. I said the other day, it's like, how boring would life be if we had consistency and we expected everything that was going to happen? Like the roller coaster is what makes life worth it. And for volleyball, I've always said that volleyball is the frosting on the cake of life. You know, it's not the cake. It's not the cake itself. It's the frosting. It's the extra. And so it just makes everything that much more worth it. And now, since your season got cut short, and then thank God the NCAA did the right thing and gave all of us our season back, you're graduating from Cal Poly, which again, no closure with graduation, but you have decided to take advantage of that redshirt year. Yeah. And it was just announced this week that you are going to go play your super senior year in Florida.
I am. And yeah, it's so exciting. One of the things that Cal Poly was amazing for me, or the draw to Cal Poly, was that they had a major where you could concentrate in sport management. And I've always been interested on the management side of sports. I think that this is going to sound bad, but I think that my interest in the management side of sports comes from a lack of understanding of why things are the way that they are a lot of the time in athletics. And so I'm always on the side of like, I'm the athlete pushing back against management. Like, you don't have to say in what we're doing. This is my career. And this is, you know, you don't understand the game of volleyball. Like, it's just like the typical, like I'm watching The Last Dance right now and I'm seeing all the fact that there is with Michael Jordan and the manager of the team and all this stuff. I think that that is so prevalent in so many different facets of sport. And I am so passionate about one day when I'm retired, I would love to coach, but I also want to be knowledgeable enough and have an education where I can be in a board meeting or at an agency or on a marketing team for a huge corporate institution or sports arena and be like, look, I've been on both sides of it and this is how I can be value to you. Because a lot of the times people who are managing sports teams or in the side haven't had the experience at the sport level, at the like basic level of what it means to show up every single day and put your body and life on the freaking line to just like blood, sweat, and tears like every single day. And athletes feel that they deserve more a lot of the time because, you know, they're not getting half the amount of money that the corporation is making or like whatever it is. I don't know. I'm just very interested in this side of sport, and I'm so excited that Florida State has a sport management master's degree. It was literally as simple as me going to Google and being like, okay, I have an extra year of eligibility. I don't really care where I go. I just want to get a master's in sport management and keep on training and have a place to play volleyball, assuming that many beach tours and like the world is kind of on an iffy level right now. So I was like, I might as well stay in school and do something that I'm really passionate about. Unfortunately, Cal Poly doesn't have a sport management master's. They had that sport management concentration that I absolutely fell in love with. And I was like, this is my niche, like volleyball and this. And so it was really hard decision because I am so grateful for the Cal Poly community. It tore at me. It like literally tore me apart for weeks on end of just thinking about leaving. And like I said, not having that closure. And I feel like I owe so much to the community who supported me through absolutely everything. My team, my coaching staff, that you really just can't find a better place to do what you love. On the beautiful Central Coast of California, and like just like everything about Cal Poly is like, if I weren't an athlete, it would still be the perfect university. So it was really hard for me to make this decision, but moving forward, it's like, I know that I'm passionate about something in my education, and that's kind of a new feeling for me. I mean, I've always been good at school, but I've never like been like, oh my God, I'm so excited to go to class and learn about this. Like,
Right.
not really ever does that happen for me. And so I knew that if I was going to pursue a master's, it should be in something that I really, really genuinely am interested in, because one, it's more work. You're going to be doing a lot more work in something.
Yeah.
You want it to be in something that you care about so that you're actually motivated to do that work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I thought about it. I went on Google. I was like, colleges with sport management master's programs that I can finish in 1 year. And the first one that popped up was Florida State. And it was like the #1 ranked program for
one of the best for sure
in the country for so many different reasons.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough where, you know, Todd Rogers is just like the most amazing person ever and so supportive. And he was like, he laid out a list of options for me and was like,
yeah.
I want you to do what is best for you. And like, I want you to, you know, and he's like, obviously I'd love to have you stay, but like, I'm giving all of our seniors all of their options and just showing you guys that your season might be over, but you still have so many opportunities. And he was just incredible. And he helped me connect me to Brooke and got on the transfer portal, had tons and tons of long talks, made sure that FSU was going to be able to provide the medical needs that I have now that I come with a little bit of baggage as an athlete. And they were just, they had the right resources. They have a great coaching staff. They have a group of insanely gritty girls that I have competed against and lost to multiple times. And I was like, that would be a really awesome thing to be a part of. Like
Absolutely.
I'm going for, you know, both, but I'm so excited about the education side of things. And I'm even more excited because I've never in my life been able to focus on either indoor or beach. It's always been, okay, you're going indoor season, then beach season, then indoor season and beach season, and no time off, no breaks, always in 20 hours.
Season, right.
Yeah, you're just like so dead. And I'm going to have time to get better at beach because I have never been able to train at it for like an extended amount of time. It's literally been 3 months here, 3 months there, maybe a couple weeks in the summer before I go into double days for indoor, but it's never been like, okay, let's really break down your game and let's develop you into a beach only athlete, because I have so many qualities from indoor that it's hard to make the transition in such a small amount of time and feel like you're really understanding it. It's like, I can score points and do the best I can, but I'm not at the level of understanding as the girls who are training year round.
Absolutely.
And obviously you need that I need that if I want to achieve the goals that I've set for myself that are very high. So it's exciting. And I think that Florida State has the staff and they have the resources, like I said, the amenities, the knowledge to be able to help me get there. So I'm really
it's going to be great. And I think it's a testament to Todd, his own self-confidence to be able to let a player like you go because he truly wants what's best for you, right?
For sure.
What was it like playing for Todd Rogers? Like gold medalist, like high-level pro. What was that like? And just tell us a little bit about that. Is it true what we were talking about where pro athletes are able to keep things on a little more chill level because they understand more? Like, what was it like?
Oh my gosh, yes. I am like, that is the epitome of Todd. Like he is like the chillest person that you'll ever, chillest coach that you'll ever meet. I really respect him because he treats his athletes like adults. And he understands that they have opinions and he understands that, you know, and he is not afraid to have conversations with them that are at an adult level. And I think when you're in college and you might not know everything, you still have a lot to learn, but it feels really good to have somebody they're not talking down to you. They're just talking to you like, hey, this is what I think, X, Y, and Z. And Todd was so good at that. He is like truly a mastermind at volleyball. He knows a ton to the point where like he'll start going off on tangents where I'm like, I don't really think that I know what you're talking about right now. Like, remind me of that situation or like whatever. But he's really smart. He's really kind. He's really caring. And he just treats us like people before players. And that's like my biggest thing that I've always preached is that you need to treat people as people. And I think at a high level of any sport, that can shift from, you know, coaches more often than not are starting to
Absolutely.
treat players as pawns. You're just a pawn for them to
Yeah.
win their game. You're just a pawn. Oh, she's really good. I don't need to know anything about her life because she's just going to do this work for me for the next 4 years and then move her on. And that isn't anybody's philosophy at Cal Poly that I've had any interaction with. And
I hope you know how lucky you are.
I am so lucky. And I mean, and that's the thing, is that it's a big reason in why I made the switch. And that's not like a hidden fact. Like, I've had plenty of interviews where I've expressed that, and I don't go into detail about it, but I just think that, you know, so many people were like, oh my gosh, like, she's throwing her career away. She went to an elite eight as a freshman at UCLA. What is she doing? Like, they could do all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but if you're not happy.
Torrey, we're going to get cut off. Sorry about that, everybody. Torrey and I can talk for a really long time together. Obviously, we could keep this going forever. We just have a few more minutes left. We got cut off a little early. But yeah, Torrey, here we go. We'll jump back on. Sorry, guys. Hey, there we go. Hi, I'm so sorry. I know we can talk forever. Instagram didn't want us to, but
no, we really can.
Back on, everybody. Sorry about that.
I didn't even realize it was that long.
Me neither. Me neither. But yeah, you were just talking about Todd and Cal Poly and how wonderful they are. And I know in my experience playing Division I, man, once I hit that injury and refused to get shot up every day, let me tell you, that relationship really did change. And it helped shape who I became as a coach, because I vowed to myself that I would never, ever treat a player the way that I was treated, because I truly felt like you said, you're just a pawn. And once you became, oh my gosh, Lauren just said, it's another event that we didn't have closure with. True story.
It's like
in return. But I remember just feeling like, oh my God, like, I had a coach that would joke with me and we'd hang out together. And then after that injury, it was gone. It was gone, and I'd never felt so worthless. And I started to question who I was, and like, am I faking my injury? Like, I started going crazy in my head.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life is when I ended up transferring to Sonoma State, and I met your mom. And she was life-changing for me. She just was so much more in tune with people and how to treat people. And it really helped shaped who I became as a coach, and that I was able to value people, injured or not, because I truly didn't get that. So I hope you know, like, man, you are so blessed that you got to experience that at a really high level, you know, at a really high level.
Yes, I feel so blessed by it. I mean, every coach that I've had at Cal Poly, every teammate, every like trainer, it's just been incredible. And I don't think that you should have to go to, per se, a lower ranked university in order to find that, is where I come from with like the sport management passion, is that I don't think that going to an elite level university should have to compromise how you're treated as a person.
Yeah, I agree.
You're working so incredibly hard, and you're young, and you're like still trying to figure out who you are. And if you don't have those, like for me, I didn't have like any family in LA. Like it's just like a different beast. And so I think that so many people experience that. I think I saw a statistic the other day that it was, and I think this is part of the reason why the recruiting rules are different now, because obviously commit as like a 14-year-old, you have no concept of like real life or like what you actually want. And that was and so there's a stat that was saying that like every year there's a release of like the top 100 volleyball recruits or whatever, and 30% of that top 100 list, so 30 out of 100 of them, transfer within their first 2 years. Yeah. Which is like crazy. A testimony to just the fact that you are either lying about your recruiting and saying that you're going to be able to provide things and do things and be a person that you're not, or these people are just too young to be able to make that decision in a like comprehensive, well thought out way. And so that was my case. Was I just I should have known that LA just isn't the place for me. Like, I just don't mesh. And so that, I mean, I think that so many people experience it, and it's such a bad stigma around like transferring, and like, now I'm a girl that went to 3 schools and I get to hear about that from everybody, you know? And it's like, there's such this weird stigma around it, but it's not a bad thing. And I think it shows bravery, and it shows people who are really in tune with themselves, who are not afraid to make big decisions and do big girl things. And I'm just proud of everyone who can like do that. And I'm proud to be, I was kind of like a pillar for that. I think that once I started once I transferred to Cal Poly and Cal Poly started to have success, there was so many people who reached out to me from other big universities, and they were like, what was it like going to, you know, a school that has 4 training tables, literally total. And I was like, it's awesome. Like, it's people with gnarly grit who like don't have half the amenities. They're not like, it was just so cool. I love my experience with it, and I can't recommend it enough.
That's so great, Tor. And then the last thing, I want to wrap up with a couple of fun things, but you've been able to play in a lot of different countries. You've been playing beach all over the place. And where was your favorite place to play that you traveled to?
Oh my gosh. Definitely Croatia.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Croatia is like the most beautiful country ever. I had the most amazing time. I think I'm a big believer in travel isn't as fun I mean, you can be anywhere in the world, and if you're with the right group of people, it's going to be the best trip ever. And so not only was Croatia probably the most beautiful place that I've ever traveled to, it was filled with just incredible people. I was with Emma Sunny, who we were the last seeded team in the whole tournament, and came back and won. And just crystal blue water. We were there with Adam and John. John Justice is actually going to be one of my assistant coaches at Florida State, but he was playing in the same tournament, and it was incredible. I'm just really blessed to have had the opportunity. I also really enjoy Lucerne, Switzerland. Is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
And we got to go to Australia, which was really, really fun. Manly Beach is like the coolest place to play on, but it ended up raining our time there, so I don't think I got to experience it at its best. But yeah,
that's so awesome, Torrey. Well, I agree with you. Croatia is gorgeous. Switzerland's gorgeous, and I hope that you have many more trips in front of you. And I'm so excited to watch you play at Florida State, and I'm thrilled to get out there. I can't wait to see your first game back out there. And I'm excited to see what kind of athlete you are with your newfound epiphany, as well as a full off season to train, because I think that's going to be insane for you.
It'll be insane. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But I can't thank you enough, babe. Just thanks for your encouragement with me. Thank you for letting me be a part of your journey since childhood. It's been such a blessing to watch you grow up. And I'm just so happy to see you being successful. And I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you so much, Allie. And anyone who's on this live or who has followed, please follow Allie. She's like literally the most incredible. She's been there for every single phone call. She's been there for every single moment that I just need like somebody to talk me out of my head. It's Allie, and she's incredible. She's the best mom. She's the best coach. She's an advocate for women. I just like, I can't speak highly enough. So thank you for giving me one of the best interviews I've ever had. Such good questions, and not just being like, so what am I? I feel like I get the same questions over and over. So this was incredible. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, babe. And give all of your family big hugs for us. We love you guys and hope to see you really soon.
We'll see you soon. Love you.
Okay. Love you, babe.
Bye.
Bye.